The female astronaut entered the cockpit despite the danger. With violent shaking, the spacecraft prepared to launch into space. A man watched a movie on his computer screen. The next second, his house actually began to shake. But after a brief tremor, everything returned to normal. The man's name was Genya. He was a journalist, preparing to interview legendary actress Chiyoko with his photographer, Ida, and film a documentary about her life. The movie clip on his computer had been one of Chiyoko's works. Chiyoko lived in seclusion, deep in a bamboo grove. Having lived alone for many years, she now had only a maid to keep her company. As Chiyoko approached gracefully, even at 75, she was still elegant and beautiful. The signature beauty mark beneath her left eye remained vivid and playful. Genya, both an interviewer and a devoted fan, blushed the instant he saw his idol. He immediately handed her a small gift box containing an old, simple key. Chiyoko knew this key all too well. It didn't just open something precious, it was woven into the very fabric of her legendary life. The moment she touched it, the house suddenly trembled, sending a wave of unease through the room. As the interview went on, Chiyoko confessed that earthquakes had marked her entire life. She was born during the 1923 quake, and later her father lost his life in another. Chiyoko always believed her father had exchanged his life for hers. That guilt left her childhood restless and uneasy. The shop her father left behind allowed her and her mother to live in comfort. Even though she grew up in turbulent times, Chiyoko's heart brimmed with bright, innocent dreams, hoping that one day she would meet her very own prince. At 16, her striking looks caught the eye of a talent scout. The film studio wanted to groom her into an actress, but her mother stubbornly insisted that acting was an unstable career and refused to allow it. The scout explained that the company's new film would be shot in Manchuria, where Chiyoko was sure to shine on screen. Her mother countered that a girl's proper path was to marry well and take over the family shop, the safest life of all. Their argument grew heated, but Chiyoko had no say in her own future. Dejected, she walked away alone. As she hesitated on the snowy road, a man accidentally bumped into her and knocked her down. He quickly helped her to her feet. In that brief glance, their fates became entwined, but the sound of pursuers shattered the moment. The man scrambled over a fence to escape. When soldiers demanded to know if Chiyoko had seen anyone pass by, she instinctively chose to protect him. She covered the bloodstains on the ground and even pointed the soldiers in the wrong direction. Later, she climbed over the fence and found the man, carefully tending to his wound. From that moment on, their connection could never be severed. Chiyoko hid the man in an underground storeroom, sneaking out each day to visit him. He was a quiet, unknown painter. He always carried an unfinished sketch with him. He told Chiyoko his hometown was in Hokkaido, a place that, in winter, turned into a vast white world of snow. Being there felt free and otherworldly, as if stepping into a different realm. Through his words, Chiyoko began to long for that land. The painter promised that when peace returned, he would take her to see the snows of Hokkaido. The sudden promise made her cheeks burn, but the painter said he would soon leave for Manchuria to fight alongside friends. He mentioned that the key around his neck could unlock something truly important. Chiyoko held onto his words. Though she didn't yet understand them, they agreed to meet again the next day, when he would tell her the answer. The sweet promise left Chiyoko glowing with excitement. When her friends teased, "You must like someone, don't you?" she could only blush and stay silent. Perhaps this was what first love felt like. But when Chiyoko arrived at the storeroom, she found a blood-stained pouch at the door, and the painter's key. Sensing danger, she hurried home, only to see soldiers crowding outside. The family's steward secretly told her that the man was safe. But already heading to the train station, Chiyoko ran through the snowstorm as fast as she could. She didn't care about cars, injuries, or pain. She only wanted to see the painter one last time. But by the time she reached the station, she was too late. She caught a glimpse of his back in the crowd. Even as she pushed and chased, she never managed to say goodbye, and the secret of the key would haunt her for a lifetime. The painter had promised to show her the snow. Chiyoko promised she would find him, even though she didn't even know his name. That brief encounter filled Chiyoko's heart with love. It drove her to make a vow. No matter the cost, she would keep searching, even if it took her whole life. Because the painter had said he was going to Manchuria, Chiyoko immediately agreed to the talent scout's offer. She didn't care about becoming a star, she just wanted to find him there. And so Chiyoko's film career began. The scout introduced her to the studio's reigning star, Miss Yukiko. Yukiko was proud and cold, openly looking down on Chiyoko. But Chiyoko paid no mind. Her heart was already full of another hope. Young director Goro noticed Chiyoko's pure spirit. Goro came from a wealthy and powerful family. When asked why she wanted to go to Manchuria, Chiyoko admitted it was to find someone. Though she knew nothing about him, she believed with all her heart that they would meet again. From then on, Chiyoko spent her days filming and searching for the painter, but with no acting experience. She couldn't even remember her lines and faced constant scolding on set. The assistant director told her that if she truly immersed herself in a role, the words would naturally come. Chiyoko had a gift for understanding. She thought of her longing and love for the painter, and poured those feelings into her performance. Even Goro praised her talent, but Chiyoko cared only about finding the owner of that key. Yukiko suggested she visit a fortune teller, recommending one said to be very accurate nearby. Chiyoko soon found the fortune teller. He told her that the person she sought was in the north. Chiyoko believed him completely. She dropped everything and boarded a train heading north. But unexpectedly, the train was attacked midway by Manchurian bandits. The passengers were caught off guard and fled in panic. Chiyoko barely escaped at the last moment. To survive, Chiyoko decided to continue acting. Sometimes she played a princess, caught in the flames of ancient war. When she saw her lover fall in battle, she was overcome with despair and tried to take her own life, only to see, at the last second, an old crone stroking the wheel of fate's spindle. The crone tricked her into drinking the Millennium tea, then cursed her, vowing to make her suffer in an undying fire of love for all eternity. The spirit hated her with every fiber of its being, but behind that hatred was a love carved deep into the bone. That curse in the film stayed in Chiyoko's memory for a long time. Life on set was fleeting, and roles changed in an instant. One moment she was a fragile princess, and the next she became a fearless general. But the core of these roles never changed. All of them were about risking everything to search for love. Chiyoko spoke to Genya with total immersion, recounting her past acting career as if it had all happened yesterday. And so, she kept filming while searching for the painter's trace. In Kyoto, she played a doomed geisha who could be beaten at the slightest misstep. When she learned her lover was trapped inside the city, Chiyoko threw herself into danger to rescue him, only to be knocked down by a samurai charging past. This scene was eerily similar to the day she first met the painter. Chiyoko took off the key around her neck, but the pursuers were already closing in. The man vaulted over the wall to escape, telling Chiyoko to keep the key safe until they met again. Such familiar scenes made Chiyoko gradually lose track of whether she was living in a movie or in reality. When the samurai caught up, Chiyoko once again pointed them in the wrong direction. This unusual act aroused suspicion. Just as the samurai were about to drag her to prison for interrogation, Chiyoko was rescued and slipped away unharmed. She rode on horseback, racing ahead with a burning heart, chasing her own destiny, from Manchuria to the northern lands, from the shogunate era to Kyoto. As an actress, she played a maiden, a princess, a ninja, a geisha. Though the roles were different, their essence was the same: for love, defy everything. On this road of chasing love, Chiyoko also felt lost, afraid, even hesitant. She often saw that old crone at the spinning wheel, hearing her curse again and again, burn forever in the fire of love, and never have your wish fulfilled. In the films, Chiyoko was captured by soldiers, imprisoned and tortured, forced to reveal the man's whereabouts. But Chiyoko clenched her teeth and refused to speak a single word. When the soldiers finally caught the man, Chiyoko was released. She saw his familiar figure in the distance and pounded on the prison door, desperate to see him just once more. She knew it was only acting, but she couldn't help pouring her real emotions into those lines. Because when the cell door opened, the painter would never be there. She could only throw herself into the next role. The real pain of war made Chiyoko miss her mother even more and long to visit home. But the family candy shop had long since fallen into ruin. Chiyoko touched her childhood red shoes, her heart heavy with unshakable sorrow. The fading portraits on the wall became her only link to the past. By this point, the elderly Chiyoko was already running out of strength. Genya, concerned, suggested they continue the interview the next day, but Chiyoko refused his kindness. Once a memory was awakened, she had to tell it all at once, otherwise by tomorrow, it might vanish completely. So she began again. After the war, everyone was struggling to survive, with little food or clothing, but finished films were still Chiyoko's and the studio's greatest motivation. They were busy every day, but fulfilled, and Chiyoko firmly believed she would someday find the painter. But time flew, and the world had changed. Chiyoko no longer knew where to search. All she could hope was that the painter would see the film she starred in. The 1950s marked the peak of Chiyoko's career. Genya, back then, had worked briefly on Goro's film crew alongside Chiyoko. Though he was only a junior staffer with no chance to approach her, director Goro was different. Even knowing Chiyoko's heart belonged to the painter, he still had the courage to confess his love. Goro's words stirred Chiyoko for a brief moment. She realized that after all these years of chasing love, she was no longer young. But just as she tried to accept his feelings, her wine glass accidentally struck the key on her chest, producing a clear, ringing sound. That sharp chime made her decide to wait a little longer for the man she had promised to meet. Her mother kept urging her to marry, to find someone reliable and live a stable life. She told Chiyoko to give up this unrealistic obsession, since she didn't even know whether that man was alive or dead. At that moment, the old crone suddenly appeared on the glass behind her mother. Chiyoko then realized that she was filming a movie. It was just that the lines she'd spoken had sounded far too much like her own true feelings. What frightened her even more was that after the scene wrapped, the key was gone. She begged everyone in the crew to help search, combing through every corner, but it was nowhere to be found. Losing this keepsake, Chiyoko suddenly realized something. She loved him deeply, but she had already forgotten what he looked like. Not long after losing the key, Chiyoko married Goro. It felt as if a piece of her heart disappeared along with it, and she had already passed the age of recklessly chasing dreams. Chiyoko began to focus on her family life. Then one day, while cleaning her home, she found the missing key tucked among some things that had fallen from the bookshelf. She confronted her husband, demanding an explanation, but Goro only gave a sly smile and said nothing. Later, Yukiko revealed the truth to Chiyoko. The entire thing was Goro's scheme, designed to win her heart, and Yukiko had even played the part of a thief to help him. Yukiko said she had always felt guilty, even back when she introduced Chiyoko to that fortune teller. It had all been part of Goro's carefully planned scheme. In fact, from the very first time Yukiko laid eyes on Chiyoko, she had been consumed by jealousy. Just then, a man came to see Chiyoko. He was the soldier who had once hunted the painter. The war had cost him an eye and a leg. Chiyoko loathed him, but the man said he had come to atone for his sins. He admitted that years ago he had arrested a painter, who left behind a letter saying he owed Chiyoko a debt he could never repay. The man knelt in repentance as Chiyoko, in tears, opened the letter, and memories long buried came flooding back. Without hesitation, she left home at once, setting out again to pursue the love of her life. The memories whirled inside her mind, urging her to run faster. She boarded the fastest train to Hokkaido to find the man she had chased her entire life. When the train broke down, she took to the forest trails, running under the moonlight, unwilling to stop even for a moment. After overcoming countless obstacles, Chiyoko finally reached her destination, but the man she longed to see was nowhere to be found. In a later film, Chiyoko again played a traveler in pursuit of love. In a wide, empty plain, she saw an unfinished painting, and in it, a figure she knew well. But in the next instant, he waved goodbye and vanished. Chiyoko shouted to the sky, "No matter where you are, I'll find you." This was the obsession of her character, but it was also Chiyoko's own. Then disaster struck. An accident on set. A collapsing building was about to crush Chiyoko. Genya leapt forward to shield her, but when she regained consciousness, the first thing she saw was that ghostly old woman once again, still cursing her. Terrified, Chiyoko fled the scene, leaving behind the key that Genya quietly picked up. For the next 30 years, Chiyoko lived in seclusion, leading a quiet, solitary life. Genya asked why she made that choice. Chiyoko replied, "Even if it's just through the screen, I don't want to ruin the image of me he once held in his heart." She didn't want him to see her grow old. This was Chiyoko's love for the painter, forever shining with a girl's youthful radiance and purity. Suddenly, an earthquake struck. As the beams above them gave way, Genya instinctively shielded Chiyoko, but her frail body could no longer bear the shock, and she lost consciousness. Genya rushed her to the hospital. Chiyoko knew her time was short, yet she faced death without fear, because at the end of life's road was the person she most wished to see. At last, Chiyoko closed her eyes peacefully, ending her legendary life. She had spent her entire existence running, chasing true love. Every role she ever played intertwined with her own life, inseparable, yet carrying the same theme, to pursue love at any cost. This love asking for nothing in return was pure and fierce. In truth, what Chiyoko spent her life pursuing was never a single man, but love itself. In life, some wait to be loved, while others bravely chase love. Those who are loved may be happy and content, yet their hearts risk growing quiet and timid. But those who choose to give love with courage and passion, they are the ones who can step freely through the gates of love. They are open, fearless, and sincere, even if they are hurt or left with regrets. They never lose their courage to love. May everyone have the courage to love, to try, to win, to lose, and to chase with everything they have. Because love itself is a relentless journey, a full-speed pursuit without end.